in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer Show coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Labor Day. I hope you're not working. I hope you're on the couch or in bed. It's probably where I'd rather be. But we're here for 2 hours talking LSU and Florida State, unfortunately. Casey Gaines, Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. Happy Labor Day to everybody. I do genuinely hope that you're having a good day, although most of your nights last night were not all that pleasant. Certainly weren't for LSU. We'll be talking about it here for the first hour for sure. We're talking with Matthew Bruni coming up at 1:30. He's part of the Bengal Tigers crew over there at 1-3, so he'll help us with the autopsy of last night's game. Talk a little bit about what we saw from the SEC over the weekend at 2 o'clock. And then, as usual, on Mondays, we will chat with Denton Day from Sirius XM. Talk a little bit of LSU and Florida State and a little bit more from a national perspective as well with Denton. Looking forward to chatting with him every single Monday. So we'll get off and running. LSU loses last night 45-24 to Florida State. There's a lot to talk about. We can talk about LSU's inability to run the ball. We can talk about LSU's quality offense early in the game that resulted in moving the ball. We can talk about the lack of a running game. We can talk about defensively where the pass rush was, where Harold Perkins lined up. We can talk about a lot of different aspects of this game, and we will. But to me, nothing was as significant in that game as LSU's total and complete inability to cover. Nothing. Not where Harold Perkins lined up, not muffing punts, not fourth down decisions, not stretching the field vertically with the passing game or not. None of that was even remotely as noteworthy to me as LSU's complete inability to cover. When you look at the stat sheet, Jordan Travis was 23 of 31. And 3 of the incompletions, there were only 8 of them. 3 of the incompletions were wide open wide receivers who dropped the football. If they just catch those, which they catch 9 out of 10 at minimum, Wilson's got some stone hands at times, but they were as routine can get. He's 26 of 31 for 370 or 380. It was straight pitch and catch all night. First down, second down, third down, fourth down, no matter the down. Zone coverage, man coverage, didn't matter. Fade routes, yep. Crossing routes, gotcha. Slants, hitches, swing routes, yep. LSU could not cover anyone on the field for 4 quarters. Jordan Travis's last 13 passes, he was 12 of 13 for 214 yards. That's 18 yards a catch. Greg Brooks had 1 pass breakup down the sideline where he made a good play. And then there was the 1 pass that Travis should have never thrown that Brooks and Perkins fought over who was going to intercept it, and nobody did. That was a pass breakup as well. The other 29 pass attempts, no breakups. There's never anyone there. LSU got Florida State into 3rd and 8, 3rd and 14 a lot. Couldn't stop them. Same story as last year. And when you boil it down and you look at what they did on 3rd downs, they were 9 of 14. You couldn't stop them because you couldn't cover. It was unequivocally my biggest concern entering the game, and it was worse than I imagined. Yep, Keon Coleman's really good. Going to be a top 40 pick. Johnny Wilson's a freak. He's 6'7" and can run. And Jordan Travis is an excellent college quarterback. So there will be matchups that are more favorable than that one moving forward. The fact of the matter is that LSU has a massive problem in the secondary. This is DBU. Just churn them through. I got them written down here. 2022 draft, Stingley goes in the first round, Cordell Flott goes in the third. 2021 draft, Vincent in the seventh, Jacoby Stevens in the sixth. 2020, Delpit in the second round, Fulton in the second round. 2019, Greedy in the second round. 2018, Dante Jackson in the second round. 2017, Jamal Adams in the first round, Trey White in the first round. 2016, Jalen Mills, seventh round. Rashard Robinson, seventh round. 2015, Jalen Collins, second round. 2013, Eric Reed in the first, Tyrod in the third, Daryl Simon in the fifth. 2012, Mo Claiborne in the first, Brandon Taylor in the third, Ron Brooks in the fourth. Ron Brooks was a reserve on that team. Fourth round draft pick in the secondary. Pat Peterson, 2011, first round pick. That's 11 drafts. 6 first rounders, 4 second rounders. That's 10 top 60 picks. LSU doesn't have it. They don't have it. You had a 5-star. He runs third team, and from all I can tell, didn't even dress last night. Brought in a guy from Ohio State that was a 4-star. He broke his leg. Got transfers, all ACC player from Syracuse, All-American at the FCS level. They just don't have the guys back there. And I told you this, and I'm being upfront. Like, I saw 4% of the camp reps the DBs took, like a tiny sample size. But far more often than not, LSU's wide receivers took whatever they wanted in camp. Goal line reps, 7-on-7, 11-on-11. They just took whatever they wanted. And that looks great, and it's fun to watch at camp. Oh, Malik Neighbors, that's a heck of a play. Man, look at Aaron Anderson. Oh, there goes Brian Thomas. Up, Mason Taylor, nice play. Up, Daniels looks good. But on the flip side, I'm looking at this going, this is not normal. And last night, if Florida State doesn't stone cold drop 3 balls, they score 55 points. There were times in the second quarter that LSU created some pass rush, made Jordan Travis uncomfortable. A lot of it came from Mekhi Wingo. Saw a little bit from Jordan Jefferson. Not as much on the edges as I want to see, and that'll get better when Mason Smith gets in there. But if you can't cover, you're going to have a hard time getting off the field. And LSU had a hard time getting off the field. I mean, these are Florida State's last 6 drives. 10 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. 9 plays, 60 yards, touchdown. Field goal. 7 plays, 87 yards, touchdown. 8 plays, 57 yards, touchdown. 3 plays, 57 yards, touchdown. 6 plays, 54 yards, touchdown. That's their last 6 drive before they took a knee. And it's not like they were getting massive chunks on every play. Again, they got into some third downs, but they just picked it up with ease. Sometimes LSU blitzed, sometimes they dropped 8. Sometimes they played man, sometimes they played zone. It didn't matter. Whatever Florida State wanted, they took. And again, there are a ton more talking points that we'll get to over the next 45 minutes. But that's the one that stood out well above everything else to me. And I'm not certain how fixable it is. You didn't see much of LaTerrence Welch. You didn't see much of Ashton Stamps. You didn't see Denver Harris. Like, there may be some other guys, and maybe some of the guys that LSU had out there improve over the course of the year. But it's a big fear. Because you're going to play some veteran quarterbacks like Jordan Travis. Will Rogers is one of those. KJ Jefferson's one of those. Peyton Thorne's one of those. Graham Mertz is one of those. Connor Wigman's got a lot of talent. We'll see what Milroe is. Jackson Dart's a vet. Like, you're going to have to cover. And they didn't. And I got some tweets sent to me last night and some text messages. Oh, you called it on Friday. Like, I'm not going to take a victory lap on that. It was miserable last night. I hoped I was dead wrong. But it was a huge concern, and it manifested itself. There's a other side of this coin, which is Florida State, and how good are they? And that remains to be seen. If that's a 12-0 team that makes the playoffs, frames the conversation a little differently. If they get housed by Clemson and go 9-3, that frames things a little bit more differently. But they did whatever they wanted to do last night on the perimeter. And that is disheartening for a school that has prided itself on elite defensive back play for better than a decade. In the last 2 years, you've had to fly into the transfer portal and rake in as much as you could, and that continuity and that talent level is just, quite frankly, not there at this point. It's just such a gut punch to come out 4 years in a row and lose game one. 4 years in a row. Losing game one in a sport where every loss is just such a massive deal. Y'all are probably sick and tired of hearing me between February and June talk about how much different college baseball is than college basketball and why it fits my temperament and why I like it, because you have time to make adjustments and fix some things and play better down the stretch and achieve any goal that you want, no matter if you have a couple of bad weeks or a bad month. College football is not like that. You know that. Your second loss is essentially a death sentence to every preseason goal that you had in August. I know the 2007 team trumped that. Shout out to Pitt. Love you guys up there for winning that game. But basically your second loss is going to erase everything. And now LSU's sitting here as the calendar's just flipped to September going, well, going to be an uphill battle. Going to probably have to be perfect the rest of the way. And it may sound ludicrous and dumb in the wake of that loss to sit here and talk about championships and playoffs and all that kind of stuff. But if I was talking about it 5 days ago, I still probably got to talk about it now. It just looks different and certainly feels a lot different. But that's what makes this sport so tough. You've got to be ready to go. And LSU has put itself in a position where in week one, they've got to be ready to go. You can't sleepwalk for an hour and a half and blow a team out by 60 in the opener when you play UCLA and Wisconsin. You play Florida State. Play USC next year. You play Clemson the year after that. Like, here's what you've done. Like, you got to get ready to go play. And they didn't play well last night at all. Got a lot more to talk about. Matthew Bruni's going to be with us in 15 minutes. When we come back, more on LSU and Florida State. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is that website. Look, it's not an awesome time for some of us to move. You got a fantastic interest rate. You don't want to leave your home. That's fine. But you can still improve it. You can improve your living situation with One Bath and Closets. They do full-scale bathroom renovations and remodeling. They do full-scale closet renovations and remodeling. Your closet's just cluttered. You don't have enough space. You're cramming things in there. Got suitcases and shoes all over the place. Let David Duvall and his team come in and just declutter. They can customize a closet to your exact specifications. Starts with a free consultation. It includes a questionnaire. David figures out what you have, what you need, and they get it done. If you do a bathroom and closet renovation remodel, combo the two, 10% off to Hunt Palmer Show listeners. Check out the website. It's got testimonials, pictures of their great work, and you can request that free consultation I just talked about. It's all at onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Scooch a fall in the air, fall. is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water, they can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines, or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Want more customers? Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers. Visit us online at runningboardsmarketing.com so we can drive your message to where the people are.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. Yes, it's Labor Day, but it's the day after the Tigers and the Knolls, so we'll be here recapping Sunday's action. Join us Monday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I'm going to ask you, the listener, for just a brief moment of honesty. Just be honest with yourself and with me here. How many of you had a comment made at your game watch party, or a text message sent from a buddy or from you, or sent off a tweet, or even a thought of baseball season last night? Did that happen for some? It certainly came up in my group text. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It came up. Oh, wish we were in Omaha. Wish Skeens was pitching. Sad stuff last night, second half. Just brutal. LSU got absolutely dusted. Brian Kelly went to the podium after the game and had some pretty pointed remarks. I'll tell you this, since Brian Kelly took this job, and I can't claim to have watched a lot of Notre Dame Brian Kelly press conferences, and certainly no Cincinnati Brian Kelly press conferences, but he's just been very, very candid at every turn, whether it's a moment of levity, a joke, or in moments where things haven't gone very well. And last night he talked about this being the first piece of adversity for this football team.
This is a total failure on a coaching standpoint and a player standpoint that we have to obviously address and we have to own. And we'll see. I know adversity is always going to strike at some time in this game, and this is our first real piece of adversity, if you will, that we have to address. And I'm confident our guys will and our coaches will rally in the manner that they need to.
A couple of things from a coaching perspective that you can analyze in this game. One was the decision to go for the early 4th downs. Of course, LSU hits the big play to Trey Bradford, which, by the way, as an aside, why does anyone even listen to me do this show? Like, we talked all August about who was going to be in the running back rotation, who was going to get the ball, who was going to start. I don't even mention Trey Bradford. He gets to start and catches a 60-yard pass to start the season. But in any event, LSU goes down, and you've got a 4th and goal, and they decide to go for it. I didn't hate it at the time. If you don't get it, you're going to make Florida State go a long field, trying to just strike first and take the momentum. I thought that was okay. Second one, I thought about the points there. I thought about taking the points. Feels like you had taken a haymaker from Florida State. Things were a little wobbly, and you had a chance to take a lead there. And I thought maybe that was an opportunity, and it just didn't work out. But Brian Kelly talked about the decision to go for the fourth downs that they failed on.
Well, I think they were pretty easy calls, 4th and goal from the 1. That was a pretty easy one. We're trying to run the football with an option for Jaden to pull it, and we'll have to just go back and look at the film and see what the looks are for him, and do a better job of addressing that in practice and giving him those kinds of pressure looks that force you to make those quick decisions. But no, those are pretty standard 4th down calls and decisions. I think both of those were, read option kinds of decisions that Jaden was confronted with.
That dovetails into maybe the surprising aspect of this thing. I'm not surprised that Florida State gashed LSU through the air. That's not surprising. I was surprised that LSU had no success running the ball. That surprised me a lot. I didn't think LSU would just take whatever they wanted on the ground, but I did think with a veteran offensive line that's got some NFL talent on it, that LSU would be able to get some push and establish a modicum of a running game. And they just flat didn't. Now, this is one of Hester's least favorite things to do, but if you just walk with me through this, it's not disingenuous. Josh Williams had a 35-yard run on 3rd down late in the second quarter. You'll remember it. It was a long 3rd down. They ran the draw. Williams got loose on the right side and had a big play that ended up getting LSU some points. And that's a great play. I'm thrilled that they got the 35 yards and that ended up working and getting them points. But outside of that run, not saying take it away, just outside of that run, your backs had 11 carries for 14 yards. That's nothing. You're getting a yard a carry from your backs. And that's because they just could not block. And that goes back to the 4th down calls and the decisions to go for it. And you're not getting any push. You heard Kirk Herbstreit on the call, and it was actually from Holly Rowe down on the sideline, saying that the Florida State defensive linemen were pointing at Miles Frazier, saying, this guy is soft, we can take advantage of this guy, let's roll. And that may be the case. It may not be the case. I don't know. I'm not in the trenches there. But Florida State felt like they were the badder dudes up front. And I said this a bunch of times last week. Like, if LSU's going to win this game, they're going to have to win it up front because they've got some disadvantages on the outside. They're going to have to win it up front with the pass rush. They had no sacks. They're going to have to win it up front running the football, keeping Florida State's offense off the field, and keeping Jared Verse out of pass rush situations. They got smoked at the point of attack by Florida State. Just smoked. They got some pressure on Daniels, and LSU could not run the ball at all. And Brian Kelly was asked about the inability to run the ball, and this was his explanation.
Well, I mean, everybody's searching for balance in the running game, so we didn't have the kind of balance that we needed. Logan Diggs was a coach's decision. I don't know quite whether he's 100% and able to practice at the level that we need him to quite yet. Yeah, I mean, look, everybody's looking for that balance in the running game. You saw what we tried to do. We tried to run the football in those very important downs, and we weren't as effective. And we're going to go back and we're going to work on it, and we're going to continue to be diligent in those areas because we've got to be better at it.
I do think that LSU will improve running the ball. I'm as skeptical as I am on that secondary, and I don't know how that's going to improve. I will say that I think the offensive line can get better. We'll see if Lance Hurd eventually wins a role at right tackle and they bump Emory Jones down. We'll see if they stick with the veteran guys, but I do think that they're going to be better. And again, it's another one of those points where you say, okay, how good is Florida State? Because if that front is elite, maybe that's the reason it went like it did. If that front is just solid and LSU sees a bunch more like that, and that's the output you get from your running backs, you've got a significant issue on your hands. And I think LSU will be better at running the ball. I thought they would run it better than they did last night. They just could not do anything. And it puts far, far, far too much pressure on Jaden Daniels to basically do everything. He's got to be the running game. He's got to avoid the pass rush. He's got to make all the throws down the field. Like, he's basically piloting the entire offense, and we saw too much of that at times last year. Got to take some pressure off of him by figuring out how to run it, whether that's more creative runs, whether that's getting Diggs back, whether that's getting Emery back, whether that's shaking things up on the offensive line. One way or another, you've got to fix that, because you having your backs outside of one carry going for 11 carries for 14 yards, you're going to get your butt kicked at most Saturdays. But again, I think they will improve in that way. It's just a gut punch, man. You sit here, 15 hours, 17 hours later, and you're just trying to wrap your head around it, and it's just not where we thought things would be. So we've addressed LSU in the secondary. We've addressed the lack of running game. We've addressed some of the coaching decisions there. I also want to talk about some of the positives I saw in this game. We'll certainly get to the way that Harold Perkins was used as well. There's still a lot to chew on here on this Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. I hope your Labor Day is going very well. Unfortunately, yesterday, not so good, but if it's a day off work, it's a good thing. It's a day off of work. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us here, whether you're listening to us on the radio, on the app, or over on YouTube as well. When we come back, Matthew Bruni from the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 Network, is going to dissect this one with me. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ram 1500 trucks, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Scoocha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
At Corvell Toyota in Opelousas, you can lease a new Toyota 4Runner for $489 per month.
On Tuesday's OTB, we'll flip the page, okay? Got some Saints football to break down. Gonna have Nick Underhill stop by to help us do that. And we'll talk about where LSU goes from here. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Send out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Matthew Bruni covers the Tigers 4 on 3, part of the Bengal Tiger crew over there with Shay Dixon and Billy Embody. He joins us now. Matthew, how are you, sir?
Hey, Hunt. I'm doing great. It's been a long 30 hours or so. I flew in on Sunday, flew back on Monday, so yeah, we're back in Baton Rouge now. Happy to talk to you.
I'm assuming the air travel was more pleasant than the football?
On the way back, I just slept because I got back so late last night, and then Shay and I did a podcast, and then I had to get up at 5 for the flight. Yeah, so yeah, it was good.
How was the environment in Camping World Stadium?
It was all Florida State. Really, probably 90 to 10, even. I'd say it was. Yeah, extremely overwhelming. And after last year where it was really, 60-40 LSU, something, closer to 50-50.
It was close to 50-50, yeah.
Yeah, to my memory, it was close to 50-50. And so I was expecting it to be, 70-30, 60-40 something. It was all Florida State home crowd. And, I don't think that made the difference in the game, but it definitely doesn't help. So, that was in FSU's favor as well.
What was the most surprising thing you saw last night?
I had a feeling you were going to ask me this, so I started thinking about that before we got on the phone. And the first thing I went to was the offensive line's inability to really create holes for the running backs, or at least create a push for the running backs. We know the running backs aren't dynamic enough to create for themselves for the most part, but I thought that they would be able to at least get a push up front. A lot of people have talked about the right side of the offensive line with Miles Frazier and Emory Jones. With those guys not being able to get a jump, a push, I'm going to have to go back and watch the film. But, they weren't able to really get anything in the running game at all. I think it was outside of that Josh Williams run. It was something like the Josh Williams run that went for 35 yards. Outside of that, I think it was the 13 carries for 14 yards?
11 carries for 14 yards, yep.
Thank you. Yeah, something ridiculous. So, that was really surprising to me. I thought they would be able to run the ball a little bit better than they did last year, and lo and behold, it really was just Jaden Daniels again.
Is that fixable?
I think at some point we see Zaylen Turd relatively quickly at right tackle on the right side of that offensive line, and they try to tweak things up there because that's a massive human who should be pretty good at the game already. So I do think they try to tweak some things, but yeah, it's I can imagine for LSU fans it sucks not seeing a running back that is able to pop things. I mean, Trey Benson last night I don't think was great, but you saw the flashes of Trey Benson being an elite running back, and that's just what LSU doesn't have, and they haven't had it since. I mean, even if you want to call Clyde Edwards-Helaire to a degree.
So in the first half, LSU had 293 yards and 17 points with 2 red zone stalls. So, I mean, the offense moved the ball really well in the first half. And then the second half, they basically got shut out. You take out the big Brian Thomas play, they basically got shut out. What was the difference?
Yeah, the 5 trips to the red zone in the first half on 6 possessions, only end up with 17 points. That obviously hurts. I do think it got repetitive of what LSU was doing. I go back to Mike Denbrock told us over the offseason they were going to try to, not run as many. They were going to try to not run as many routes with the receivers back to the end zone.
Yeah.
And yet we saw time after time their most successful play was the Malik Neighbors comeback route, right? That was the one Jaden Daniels feels the most comfortable throwing, the timing's there, everything. Well, what happened is Florida State obviously starts sitting on it, and there's some contact at the sticks. Malik Neighbors slips as a result, and it's an interception. I don't know. That just was kind of a microcosm of the entire second half where Florida State adjusted, and LSU didn't have a counterpunch. LSU didn't have a second elite receiver that could make a play. LSU couldn't get the push on the offensive line with their run game. I haven't watched the game back, but some people on our board are pointing out, it's the same run game as last year, and it seemed like it is. So they really still don't have a counterpunch at this moment. Jaden Daniels' legs is probably the best counterpunch they have, and we saw that in the second half at times try to will them back, but that's not enough.
All right, defensively, there's a lot to chew on there. What's the focal point for you on the defense?
Besides my worst fear coming true of them not using Harold Perkins, which I tweeted out at like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m, whenever it was, because I went back. I was like, I know I said this in spring camp, and sure enough, I found 2 separate clips of me saying this exact thing. Like, I didn't believe that they would use him in this way. I just never thought that they would actually do it, even though we saw it in camp. But yeah, they did it, and I think it was 7 pass rushes to 28 or coverage or something along those lines. That was just jarring to me. I think it was jarring to everybody who watched it, and that's now the focal point of the entire country that talks about LSU. So it's been brought to the light now, and everybody can talk about it and everybody can see it. But yeah, them not getting pressure on Jordan Travis, not unsettling the pass game of Florida State at all. That was the whole point of the article that I wrote last week was y'all aren't covering these receivers. They're not covering Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. Your only hope is to not let Jordan Travis get a clean throw off to them, and they didn't do that.
Is Harold Perkins' role in this defense, if he's used to his maximum potential, what we saw against Arkansas, just line him up on the edge and tell him to go?
I think so. Like, you can use Harold Perkins on first downs or, certain situations. You can use him in that inside linebacker spot. I actually thought he played a fine game at that spot. Again, I'm going to go back and watch it and chart it and stuff like that. I really want to take a look at it closer. But just watching, I thought he run fitted well. He did a lot of things you want inside linebackers to do. The problem is that's not what this defense needs. This defense needs dynamic playmakers off the edge. And Braden Swinson had a good game, but other than that, like, Mekhi Wingo obviously had a great game. I thought he was the best player on LSU's team. But you need the game changer. And that was the whole point of anybody. To me, LSU's chance in this game was Harold Perkins making a play that Florida State can't make because Florida State doesn't have Harold Perkins. There was never a situation where Harold was even put in position to make that play. And this team isn't good enough to overcome or not have one of their best players not be in position to make plays. So if it's, I do, and another thing is they said they were going to blitz him from different spots. It's not even that he was just going to play inside linebacker. It was, they're not going to be able to stop him because he's blitzing from inside to outside to left to right. He didn't do that. Yeah. So I was very confused.
What about the secondary? How much of that is, it's both. How much of it's really good wide receivers from Florida State? How much of it is LSU's got issues in the secondary?
Yeah, no, it is both. Deuce Chestnut was in position on a lot of those. Major Burns was in position when he got dunked on, and Keon Coleman is exactly who I and a lot of people thought he was. He's an elite player from Louisiana, and now making plays at Florida State. It's been pretty clear that they only trust Zy Alexander at corner. It's been that way since they put Sage Ryan out there during the scrimmage, right? They put Sage Ryan at corner, and they've been looking at him. He didn't end up playing out there. It was Deuce Chestnut, but still, like, it's fairly obvious to me they don't fully trust Deuce at this level going against guys like this. So it is concerning. Not much of it's super fixable. I do want to repeat something I said over the offseason is we shouldn't take for granted what Mekhi Gardner and Jarek Bernard-Converse did last year. How they were able to come in, and they weren't great, but they were serviceable. They were physical, and they were able to hold up for most of the season. That's really, really hard to do as a transfer at this when you're going up a level. So, yeah, I am concerned about that, but ultimately, I think against most teams, they're not going to get exploited like that.
What do you make of Aaron Anderson last night?
Another player who it's funny. I mean, in fall camp, I mean, you were there for some of it. I don't know if you saw but he did muff a couple punts. When we were out there at fall camp, like it wasn't like he was perfect. Greg Clayton clearly has the best hands of anybody at punt returner. So I wasn't surprised they rolled him out first, and then Aaron Anderson muffed the punt. So, but the kick returns are really what's jarring because neither one of them got to the 20.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be a guy who is one of the best returnmen of the 2021 class, or was it 22 class? But still, one of the best returners of his class, a top 40 player. I mean, high 4-star guy. Obviously, he's coming off of an injury, a pretty significant injury to his leg. And so you wonder if that maybe took a little bit of burst. But in fall camp, I thought actually he moved pretty well in the open field still. But to see him just not make anybody miss was pretty concerning.
What is the most important thing for them to work on this week? I've said this a million times. I'm going to say it a bunch of times all week long. They can't get anything out of playing Grambling. They can score 100 if they wanted to. There's just not anything you can get from playing Grambling. But in terms of practice and reps, and what do they need to address first this week?
I go back to the pass game. I refuse to believe that the pass game we saw last night is all that they have. I mean, there has to be another dimension to it because to me, personally, it looked like the same pass game we saw last year. It was the same. Jaden Daniels was 0 for 3 on passes of 15-plus yards before garbage time yesterday. And a lot of the routes, like I said, were the same. The comeback routes, the Mason Taylor routes. I just didn't see anything new in the pass game. And, they did drop some balls, the receivers did, but at the end of the day, just from a concept standpoint, I can't believe that the pass game is the same as it was last year. I really thought it would add more layers to it, and it didn't seem like they were able to do that.
Last one, how good is Florida State?
Really good. But I said that going in that I thought they were a tougher matchup for LSU than Alabama because of this pass game that they have that Alabama doesn't have. Them versus Clemson is such a fascinating matchup, and we'll see Clemson tonight. They play Duke. That's actually a pretty good game for a Monday night. So we'll see how Clemson looks with Kay Klubnik at quarterback and, freaking a lot of really good players. But that battle for the ACC, and probably, they'll only get one team in the playoff. That battle is really, really interesting to me now.
Get some rest. We appreciate it, Matthew.
Thanks, Hunt. I'm going to go to sleep till tomorrow.
There you go. That's Matthew Bruni, part of the Bengal Tiger Network over there with On 3. Shay, Billy, Matthew do an awesome job. They were boots on the ground in Orlando yesterday, back in action and good enough to jump on. I didn't want to have to do a whole hour by myself on that game. I need a little bit of help, and Matthew was happy to oblige, so we appreciate his thoughts. We'll have Denton Day coming up in hour number 2 with a little bit of a look at national picture after 1 week of college football. When we come back, we will close out hour number 1 on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Tell you every day, call Boudreaux's Electric. Get that Generac generator installed at your home. Neil and Melissa Boudreaux have been operating Boudreaux's Electric for 40 years, installing Generac generators at people's homes in South Louisiana. Every Generac generator that they install comes with a free 10-year warranty. Free 10-year warranty. And they customize it to your home. Some folks have huge homes. Some folks have more modest homes. They don't need the same generator. Some folks want the entire house to be powered up when the power goes off. Some folks say, just keep me cool, keep the fridge and freezer running, we'll be in good shape. You tell them, and they customize a generator for you. They install that thing, and I promise you, the person that comes out and installs it is going to be a full-time employee of Boudreaux's Electric, not going to be somebody they contract out to go take care of a job. Nope, Boudreaux's Electric, all full-time employees that are working on their generators in South Louisiana. Same phone number they have had for 40 years. 985-397-1562. That's Boudreaux's Electric at 985-397-1562.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Want more customers? Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers. Visit us online at runningboardsmarketing.com so we can drive your message to where the people are.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Cold in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile.
For the Tuesday edition of Live at Lunch from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in Mid-City. We'll start early at 10 a.m. to accommodate the Brian Kelly press conference. You probably want to listen. Live at Lunch, 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Moving right along here on this Labor Day. The Cubs just hit a homer, so my mood feels a little bit better than it was, maybe 10 minutes ago. Certainly better than it was 12 hours ago when I got home. Not that you care. One of the things that Matthew Bruni mentioned there in that interview was that he thought Mekhi Wingo was LSU's best player on the field. And I would echo those sentiments. I thought that Mekhi Wingo played a very, very good football game last night. And when I think about week 1, what the team looked like in week one and what this team could grow into eventually. And you hope for improvements, obviously. I do think one thing that could show up over the next month is a situation where Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo in the middle, as well as Harold Perkins somewhere around the line of scrimmage at the edge, makes LSU pretty tough to block. Like, we can at least sit back and think that, right? Yeah, last night sucked on defense. Just got absolutely gashed for 4 quarters. Well, there was a point there where they were getting the pass rush and they got a pick and were okay. But most of 4 quarters was a disaster. But I do think that once Mason Smith gets back, if he's healthy, and you put he and Mekhi Wingo in the interior, that's a load to deal with. And if you've got Perkins on one of the edges, which I think is going to happen eventually, they can't leave him in pass coverage 80% of the game again. That's not – like, how often do I tell you that I'm not the X's and O's guy when it comes to football? I'm not. I can tell you that Harold Perkins playing pass coverage 80% of the game is not good. So when he moves to the defensive front at some point, whether it's 60% of the game, 50% of the game, 80% of the game, whatever they figure out in how to use him, and then you've got those two guys in the middle, that's a spot where LSU's defense can get markedly better than it was last night. Because, again, I mentioned this, they didn't have a sack last night. They really didn't put a lot of heat on Jordan Travis other than that little spurt in the second quarter where they kind of got him to make some poor decisions. He made an awful decision on the ball that should have gotten picked by Brooks and Perkins at the 10-yard line when he was trying to throw it from his own 1 when he's getting hit. And then in the next drive, he actually threw a pick right to Deuce Chestnut. That was the only point in the game where they got a little bit of pass rush. Outside of that, they really didn't, but I do think they can. Again, I'm concerned about the top-end talent at running back, and I don't know if that's going to get any better. In fact, I know it's not going to get better unless Caleb Jackson becomes a superstar. I'm concerned about the guys covering the receivers and how NFL-ready those guys are, which I don't think is. Those problems are tough for me to envision fixing. The problem with pass rush, I can get a pretty quick guide on how to fix that. Keep Wingo rolling right along, get Mason Smith involved, and find a way to get Harold Perkins into the backfield. And that can help the defense. Because if you're not going to cover, you got to get to the quarterback. And LSU didn't do that enough last night. And look, Jordan Travis is excellent. He's just an excellent player. He carved LSU up on third downs a year ago, and he carved LSU up on third downs last night. And once they figured things out in the second half, they just simply were quite literally unstoppable. LSU did not stop them once in the second half. But by now, I'm certain you've seen the stat. Harold Perkins, 28 drops into coverage, only 7 times rushing the passer. And you know that Mason Smith didn't play. Those two things changing, I think, makes a big difference. So, again, there was some positive last night. It's not fun to talk about because the outcome matters so much in college football. Once again, to go back and be lazy and talk about baseball, like you see some positives on a weekend where you lose 2 out of 3, it's easy to talk about those and go, yeah, we can work on that going forward. You lose a football game, it's hard to talk about positives because it's just such a bottom line sport. You got to win the game. And LSU did not come close to winning the game last night. So for the 4th year in a row, LSU starts off 0-1, and then you look up and realize next year you're going out to Vegas to play Southern Cal. Now, thank goodness, Caleb Williams will be playing in Tampa. We'll be playing in Arizona. Somewhere. He won't be playing in Vegas against LSU, which is a good thing, but he'll be playing somewhere for somebody. That's about do it for hour number 1 here on this Labor Day edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We've been talking just about nothing but LSU and Florida State. I opened up giving my thoughts on the biggest Achilles heel on this LSU football team, and I believe that to be LSU's secondary. And it was on display last night. Talked a little bit of positive and then some negative on the ground game. Heard some sound bites from Brian Kelly, and we heard from Matthew Bruni of the Bengal Tigers on 3. If you want to do us a favor, I would certainly appreciate it. Get on over to YouTube. You can find all of our LSU football segments on my YouTube channel, Hunt on LSU. Certainly can find all my Saints content on Hunt on Saints as well. If you go to YouTube, search those 2, and subscribe, then all that content in these little 10-minute digestible pieces will be right to your homepage on YouTube. It would mean a lot to us if you would subscribe. If you missed any of the hour and you want to go back and catch it, you can always do so on demand. Our show is on demand every single day at 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. You can find OTB, you can find Live at Lunch, you can find us, you can find AFR, all there. you're Apple Podcast, if you're Spotify, if you're Google, all those places you find your audio, you can find us as well. And always on YouTube. A lot of y'all in the Bayou Ford chat right this second. If you throw us a like, that would mean a lot to us. Subscribe to the channel as well. Hour number 2, we're going to change gears just a touch, if that's okay with y'all. We're going to talk about the Southeastern Conference and what we saw from teams in the SEC. I've got thoughts on Joe Milton. I've got thoughts on Jalen Milroe. I got thoughts on Hugh Freeze's debut. I got thoughts on the Aggies. We're going to do all of that coming up at 2 o'clock and at 2:15. And then Denton Day from SiriusXM going to be with us each and every Monday during the football season, kind of talking about things from a national perspective. What do you think about Coach Prime? We're going to talk a little bit about that. What do you think about LSU and Florida State? We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll just kick some national things around so we don't have to focus too much on the agony that was last night over in Orlando. So we'll take a timeout for SportsCenter and come back with hour number 2. It's a Labor Day edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ram 1500 trucks, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The importance of doing this Fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the Fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a Fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Scoocha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water, they can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines, or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of Front to Back Boat Service.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. LA police told ESPN Dodgers pitcher Julio Urias, arrested on felony domestic violence charges late last night, released on $50,000 bond today. MLB says it's investigating the case. The Dodgers say Urias is not with the team. This is his second domestic violence arrest the last 4 years. In a match of two teams in the thick of the NL wildcard race, Cubs leading the Giants 1-0 bottom three. As they get ready to host Thursday's NFL season opener against the Lions, the Chiefs racing to be without all-pro defensive tackle Chris Jones early this season. The sides a few million dollars apart per year in contract talks. KC knows it needs Jones for a repeat Super Bowl run. First Take co-host Shannon Sharp.
You got to pay him. If you want any hope, any chance of repeating, Chris Jones has to be on this roster at some point in time. So he has to play at least 8 games. So he's going to come eventually, but you don't want to give these games away.
Rams receiver Cooper Kupp today saw a specialist in Minnesota for his hamstring issues, remains day-to-day. U.S. Open, ESPN, men's 1 seed Carlos Alcaraz leading Matteo Arnaldi with 2-0.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Hunt Palmer Show. Labor Day edition, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Right here in the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, downtown in the capital city. I've mentioned this a couple of times, that one of the downsides of my obligations with pre- and post-game for LSU is that I'm just not able to watch quite as much college football as I might like to. Just hypothetically, if LSU plays the 2:30 game, well, I'm on the air at 12:30, so I can't really watch the 11 o'clock kickoffs because I'm on the air at 12:30. And then LSU plays from 2:30 to 6:30, and I'm locked in for that. And then I'm on the air at 7 until 8 o'clock, so I've missed a lot of what's going on. I'm tied up basically in that scenario from noon to 8 p.m. That's a big window of not being able to watch very much. But I was able to watch a ton this weekend because obviously LSU played on Sunday, so I was able to look at a lot of SEC teams. I had the ESPN Plus fired up on the laptop here. I had the TV going. Like, I was able to watch a good bit. So wanted to go through some of my takeaways and check in on my betting. If you'll recall from Friday's show, if you were listening, I pledged and vowed to you, the listener, that I would cover at least one SEC game this season. I started 0-3. We had the Vanderbilt-Hawaii game, missed that. We had Florida-Utah, missed that. We had Missouri and some team, South Dakota or something. Missed that. I was 0-3. But I knew at some point over a 12-week SEC schedule that I would cover. And we did a couple times on Saturday. Let's get into it. Started with Virginia and Tennessee at 11 a.m. from Nashville. Tennessee was a 28-point favorite, and I laid those 28 points with the Vols, and they got home with relative ease against a Virginia team that is not good. I don't think the Hoos are going to be great this year. I thought Joe Milton was okay. He's just not an exceptionally accurate quarterback. I thought that Josh Heupel really early in the game tried to take as much off of Milton's plate as he could. They ran a lot of bubble screens, and they ran the ball a ton. They threw a lot of now screens, like just getting the ball out and getting it into guys' hands. As I expected, it was not as crisp an operation as it was with Hendon Hooker, who's just a better quarterback than Joe Milton. Now, Milton did, take a huge deep shot, and he laid it right in the breadbasket, and the wide receiver dropped it like 60 yards down the field. And he still got a bazooka of an arm, and he still makes a lot of really good throws. And I think that that Tennessee is going to score at a high clip this year. but it's just not as good as it was with Hendon Hooker. It's just going to be one of those, sometimes he makes a good throw, sometimes he doesn't. He had one drive, Milton did, where he overthrew 3 guys in a row, or misfired 3 times in a row. He's just not as good as Hendon Hooker, and that's what we anticipated. But he was good enough for a 49-13 win, which covered the 28 points. So pay the man there for the SEC. Ball State and Kentucky were also an 11 a.m. kick, and I watched probably more of that one than I wanted to. But I did have Kentucky minus 25.5 in that game, and they won by 30. So you pay the man there as well. I thought Devin Leary looked okay. Threw a pick, threw for 241 yards. Wandale Robinson, the next Wandale Robinson, I think, is Berrien Brown, who I thought looked really, really good when he got his hands on the ball. But the star of the day was Ray Davis for Kentucky, the Vanderbilt transfer who ran for 1,000 yards. He looks really good running the football for Big Blue, and they routed Ball State 44-14, and they covered. So I won that one as well. Western Carolina and Arkansas. I had Western Carolina because I thought Arkansas would run it a ton. They actually threw the ball a little bit, and KJ Jefferson looked good doing. He threw for 246 yards and 3 scores. Rocket Sanders didn't really get going. He only ran for 42 yards on 15 carries. And Arkansas just annihilated Western Carolina. It was 35-3 at halftime, and they just poured it on to a 56-13 win. That's one of those games that's just completely non-competitive. Western Carolina didn't have the dudes. It's going to be much the same in Tiger Stadium this weekend. It's just a total mismatch, and not a ton you can take from that one, other than the fact that I did not cover because I had Western Carolina. Couldn't stay inside of 34.5. Mercer and Ole Miss. Lane Train got going pretty quick, and they were up. They had 28 points in the first quarter. They had 38 points at halftime. They scored 28 more in the third quarter. You saw Jackson Dart in the game. He was the starter, 334 yards for him through the air. They brought in Spencer Sanders next. He was 8 of 14 through the air and threw a couple touchdowns. The 2 of them combined to throw 2 touchdowns, and Walker Howard actually got in the fourth quarter and was able to throw 3 passes. So Jackson Dart is the guy for Ole Miss right now. I think Spencer Sanders is very clearly the backup. I do think they're, like, we're going to talk about Auburn in a second, and I think their quarterback situation is a little different than that. But Jackson Dart's the guy for Ole Miss right now, and we'll find out a lot about them pretty early, as they've got Tulane coming up, and they've got Georgia Tech, and then they get LSU and Alabama in back-to-back weeks. So we'll know a lot about the Lane Train. I told you preseason that I'm not super high on them. Mercer's terrible, but Ole Miss did cover, and I had them, so we'll take that as well. So that's my third win of Saturday's action. I mentioned Auburn. That was a game that I was fascinated to watch, to see kind of what they would look like against UMass. UMass was atrocious last year, maybe the worst team in the FBS. They were 1-11, and their only win was against Stony Brook. They were maybe the worst offense in the country last year. Them in New Mexico were basically the worst too. But I was just looking to see what Auburn would look like at quarterback, and I thought Peyton Thorne was okay, but this is a dual quarterback system that Hugh Freeze is going to run. Peyton Thorne's the starter. He's going to get the lion's share of the reps, but they're going to bring Robbie Ashford in to do some things, whether that's in the red zone, whether that's on third down. And Ashford kind of took to that role, and I thought did a really good job at least running the football. He ran it 9 times for 51 yards. He scored 3 touchdowns on the ground. He didn't throw it great. He was 2 of 6, but you wouldn't expect him to throw it great. He didn't throw it great last year when he was a starter. So Thorne kind of managed things. He was 10 of 17 for 141 yards. They did a lot of running the ball, as you would imagine, and they bring Ashford in, and I think that's going to continue the entire season. They like the athleticism that Ashford gives them. Remember, Robbie Ashford went to Oregon out of high school and played baseball and quarterback there. He was on the team that LSU went to Eugene and beat in a regional. He didn't play in that regional, but he was on that team. He's a great athlete. He's just not a great quarterback. They're going to have Peyton Thorne be the guy who gets the ball down the field and runs the offense, but they're going to have a package, I think, for Robbie Ashford. Not too dissimilar to Tebow coming in for Chris Leak or Perilou coming in for Flynn. That kind of a change of pace, I think, is what you're going to see from Auburn. So I think that's interesting. They win 59-14. I had a -35, and that was a winner. Mississippi State played Southeastern Louisiana, and they kind of sleptwalked early. It was not a very inspiring effort from Mississippi State. If you saw the interview at halftime with Zach Arnett, he was like, we got to get it in gear. We're going to get embarrassed. And he's saying that they were down 7-3. Or it was 10-7 was the score at one point, but Mississippi State ran and hid 21 unanswered in the fourth quarter, 28 unanswered in the second half. And the score looked fine at 48-7. But it was a sleepy beginning for Mississippi State. One thing I told you that I was looking for in that game was Woody Marks finally getting to run the football, because he'd been kind of just a pass-catching running back. And he got to run the ball. They handed it to him 19 times, and he ran for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he's a pretty good running back. The question is, can their offensive line run block the way they need to, because these guys were kind of recruited to be pass blockers. That's not something you're going to be able to figure out against Southeastern Louisiana, but I thought that Marks looked good in his opportunity to run the football. So that was a game that didn't have a line, so I didn't have to worry about covering. But we'll get to the rest of the action. We'll talk about Bama. We'll talk about A&M. We'll talk about Georgia as well. But let's stay on time before we get to Denton Day. We'll take a timeout. Come back with more. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Ochsner Health and MD Anderson Cancer Center have partnered to create Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center in southeastern Louisiana. This collaboration is going to provide patients in our region with access to cancer treatments that are among the most advanced in all of the nation. Ochsner is the first and only provider in Louisiana that's got a fully integrated cancer plan based on MD Anderson's practice standards and treatment plans. They've got direct access to MD Anderson specialists, their researchers, and they're going to actually offer access to select clinical trials to eligible patients. Great news. 7 locations are going to offer this expert care in New Orleans, St. Tammany Parish, and in Baton Rouge as well. And Ochsner and MD Anderson are both working together to certify additional sites as they move forward. If you'd like more information on the Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center, go to ochsner.org.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Want more customers? Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers. Visit us online at
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. Yes, it's Labor Day, but it's the day after the Tigers and the Knolls, so we'll be here recapping Sunday's action. Join us Monday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You know, it was a fairly comical portion of SEC football over the weekend was the UT Martin Skyhawks attempting to tackle Brock Bowers. That went very poorly, as you would imagine. They were throwing him the ball in the flat, gave him a handoff the 3-yard line, easy touchdown. He's just he's such a freak. Carson Beck started for Georgia, and he was 21 out of 31, 294 yards and a touchdown. Did not turn it over. Brock Vandegrift came in and threw a touchdown pass late. Georgia cruised over UT Martin 48-7. I took the Skyhawks plus 45. That means pay the man. Love to see that. Got to trust the Skyhawks when make sure they're getting 45 points when you do. But that was the case over the weekend. New Mexico and A&M. Oh, man. The Aggies are really drinking this one up. They played one of the worst teams in the country, and because they scored a bunch of points on one of the worst teams in the country, they're feeling really good about themselves. Connor Wigman did throw 5 touchdown passes. That's, better than what they did most of the time last year. Max Johnson came in and threw one as well. But look, A&M scored 35 points in the first half against New Mexico, who actually fielded a reasonable defense last year. They just were the worst offense, quite literally, in all the country. LSU played them last year. They didn't score a point. They got 10 on A&M this week. But look, A&M's offense did what it was supposed to do. We'll learn more about them on Saturday. There's just not much you can take away from New Mexico. Now, sure, A&M lost to Appalachian State last year, and they played really poorly in the game prior to LSU. I think it was UMass they played last year, the week before LSU, and they looked bad in that game. And they looked better. But it's New Mexico. So if A&M goes out and scores 45 on Miami on Saturday, I'll look at that and go, okay, they've clearly made some steps in the right direction. If they go out there and they only score 17, then you'll say, well, can't learn much from playing the Lobos. But that's part of this week 1 deal where everybody's lambasting everybody, and LSU's jamming its head up against the wall trying to play Florida State. So, look, Connor Wigman, 18 of 23, 236 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks. Still has not thrown an interception in his college career. He got Evan Stewart involved early and often. Stewart had 115 yards. Noah Thomas, big 6'6" target for him, had 74 yards. Aniyah Smith back in action, had 48 yards through the air as well. And they leaned on a number of running backs in the run game too. So, look, I'll give A&M this. Like, they looked better on offense, but it's New Mexico, so we'll learn about them against Miami. I said I would lay the 38 with A&M. They won by 42, so I covered that one as well. Not going to talk much about Vanderbilt and Alabama A&M. I did not watch that one. I watched a lot of SEC football. I didn't watch Vanderbilt and Alabama A&M. I did watch a little bit of the Crimson Tide, however. And, look, they've got an identity, I think. And the question is, how effective is that identity going to be? It's very evident to me that their plan is going to be to have a big, physical, brute offensive line and just hammer you on the ground. Saban thinks they'll run it, they won't turn it over, and they're still going to have a good defense, and it's just not going to look like it did with Bryce Young or Mac Jones or Tua or Hurts. It's not going to look like that. It's going to look like Jalen Milroe throwing it 20 times a game. Jalen Milroe running it a bunch. He ran 7 times for 48 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. And he was fairly efficient throwing the ball. He was 13 of 18, had 3 touchdowns, but it just doesn't look great to me. He looks unbelievable when he gets out in the open field and he's running. The passing just looks a little clunky. Yeah, he hit a couple of deep balls. Were they great throws? No. The wide receivers were just cooking Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders over the top, and he was just putting some air under it, and they went out and made some plays. I don't think he was hitting guys in stride with some deep balls. They'll play Texas this week, and we'll get a much better feel for what they are. But I do think that while I can't take a lot away from what their passing game is going to look like, I do think I understand what Alabama purports itself to be, and that is the most physical team going with a big, strong dude at quarterback who can run, and they may hit some big plays over the top because you're cheating to try to stop the run. That's kind of what I think you're going to see. Bama ran it 40 times and threw it 24. That's kind of the ratio I think that they're looking for. And then there was the big one, South Carolina and North Carolina, and Shane Beamer, not a great look for him in the post game, talking about how they're trying to run an onside kick, start the second half, and they had to wait on the chain gang because they were eating a hot dog or something. He just sounded kind of like a spoiled kid in that press conference, but obviously not in a great mood. They were riding high. They had all that momentum from how they finished last year, and then you get this primetime game that game day's at, and you feel like you got to bring it, and they're only able to muster 17 points in the game, and North Carolina pretty much houses them 31-17. Look, it was a 31-14 game entering the fourth quarter. That's a beatdown. Spencer Rattler's numbers look great. He was 30 of 39 for 353, and he didn't turn it over via the interception. But they couldn't run the ball at all. I mean, if you account for the sack yards, which there were 22 of them, South Carolina ran for -2 yards in the game. They had 31 rushes for -2 yards. Even if you put the sack yardage, like if you take the sack yardage out, they only ran 31 times for 20 yards. That's getting whipped at the line of scrimmage. North Carolina looks pretty good, and Drake May is excellent. He threw 2 touchdowns. He did turn it over twice with a couple of picks, but North Carolina looks like a pretty competent team, and South Carolina kind of riding that high that they were on, kind of come crashing down to earth with that one on the biggest stage. I don't think anybody had South Carolina challenging for the East, but it's an interesting thing to look at, and Shane Beamer has brought some attention to that program, and North Carolina just kind of wiped him up. I was very critical of North Carolina hiring Mac Brown. I thought that was really stupid. Thought he was old. Thought that's a much harder job than Texas. Yeah, I know he was there 30 years ago, but just doesn't feel like a very good decision. And he's kind of made them relevant. Like, they're not great. They're not going to win the ACC. They're not going to win national championship, but they got a good quarterback, and they've been pretty competitive under Mac Brown. So that's one where I was dead wrong there. But I was dead wrong on the spread on this one as well. However, if you look at the ledger overall for me, after that tough 0-3 start that I suffered, I rallied. I went 7-4 in the other games. So that's quality stuff. We look up here. I am now 7-6 on SEC games for the year. So we got a winning record. We just got to continue to build off of that and keep things churning. I think for me, most impressive team in the SEC over the weekend, I would probably go with Georgia there. LSU and Florida would tie for most disappointing. And you look at A&M and Ole Miss, and you think, all right, that's pretty good to build on. What can you do moving forward when you play some teams that are maybe a little bit tougher? I've already got my orange and green gear for the weekend. I can't care too much about LSU and Grambling. I got to have Miami find somehow, some way down in South Beach to beat Texas A&M. That would warm my heart, and I need that. Misery loves company. It's not really an SEC weekend if I can't go to somebody's message board and read all the tears. Like, that's what I'm in this for. And now I'm the one crying all the tears, and everybody else beat teams by 50. That's not fun. I like when LSU wins, and then somebody else throws up all over themselves, and I can go read it. I don't get any pleasure from reading South Carolina tears, and I don't have a good Florida message board that I can go to. Plus, that was back on Thursday. I need A&M to lose. I need Arkansas to lose. I need Bama to lose. I need some of these teams so that I can go to message boards and have some company in my misery now that LSU has gotten off to such a poor start. All right, that's a look around the Southeastern Conference in Week 1. Got a big Week 2 schedule coming up. There's more good action in the SEC in Week 2. Vandy's got Wake Forest. You got Ole Miss coming down to Ullman to play Tulane. You got Texas A&M and Miami. Of course, you got the big one, Texas and Alabama. Mississippi State plays Arizona. Auburn goes out to Cal. So a little bit more action this week after a really lackluster Week 1 in the Southeastern Conference. But those were my takeaways. We're going to talk a little bit things nationally and some LSU, Florida State with our guy Denton Day from Sirius XM. He's going to join us next on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. It is a Labor Day edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Life in Louisiana is a song. A symphony of sound, colors, and movement. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
On Tuesday's OTB, we'll flip the page, okay? Got some Saints football to break down. Gonna have Nick Underhill stop by to help us do that. And we'll talk about where LSU goes from here. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It is a holiday, so I gave Denton Day the option. Hey, you don't need to come on, enjoy some time away. But this guy loves football. He wants to talk football. He said I'm in. So we'll go out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline, chat with Denton Day, Sirius XM Coast to College Football Overtime. Late night on Saturday nights. Denton, happy Labor Day. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, my friend. There's no off days during football season. You know that. There's no such thing as a holiday.
No, we're back in action. It was a late night last night for us, and here we are. Was the story last night for you as an impartial observer, Florida State or LSU? What was the bigger story?
I thought the bigger story was Florida State because I didn't think they were going to be this good this early. My thought process watching that game was that LSU was the better team, and then eventually, throughout the course of the season, Florida State would put the pieces together, and they'd be a real strong team. But it seemed like it was the opposite. Florida State, I didn't see a single hole on offense or defense with their roster other than the penalties. I mean, they made some pretty boneheaded penalties yesterday, but they looked good on quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line, running back, like any position you can name. They had guys there. I was stunned with how impressive they were last night. Now
that you've seen them for 4 quarters, what do you think of that team in terms of what their ceiling could be this year?
I think they're going to challenge Clemson in the ACC. I think it's way more legit than I thought maybe at the start of the season. I'm excited to see Clemson tonight. But as of right now, I really do think that Florida State, just based off of one game, can win the ACC, and they might be able to rattle some cages nationally in the college football playoff picture.
On the flip side, what do you think of LSU?
I think they need to get better, right? I think Jaden Daniels. I didn't think he played bad necessarily yesterday, but there were certainly some decisions that he made last night that I think need to be better. Brian Kelly called his team out after the game, which I thought was. It was both good. It was true, but it was a statement, and I hope the team responds to it. I think there's so much talent on that roster. One game isn't going to deter their season, but there's certainly some room to grow for them.
All right, let's go back and look at things from a national perspective. I want to go all the way back actually to last Thursday because we hadn't spoken since then. I thought Florida just looked awful, and I've got all my LSU gear on, and that wasn't great last night either. But moving on, I thought Florida just looked lost.
Yeah, I had heard some people say some really positive thing about Graham Mertz and the way that he performed this offseason at camp for Florida. But I watched Graham Mertz for multiple years at Wisconsin. I knew what I was getting there with him. There wasn't I know sometimes a change of scenery helps with certain players, but I kind of know what Graham Mertz is. And Florida, to me, lived up to what my expectation of them was. Then you look at the flip side, Utah has grown men on that line of scrimmage on both sides. That's where their bread is buttered. So that wasn't a huge surprise, that outcome. I think this is a year for Florida where it's going to be down record-wise, and then eventually once they get their new recruits and some new 5-stars in, they'll rebound here. But this is not going to be a fun year if you're a Gator fan.
Did you get a chance to look at any of the new SEC starting quarterbacks? Jalen Milroe, Carson Beck, even Joe Milton. What was your impression, if any, of any of those 3 guys?
I thought they all played well. Now, granted, none of them played superior talent by any stretch of the imagination. I think the best team that one of those guys faced was UVA, and UVA is not exactly what I would call a good football team. No. So I'm excited to see them play good guys, right? I'm excited for Jalen Milroe to play up against Texas this weekend. I think we'll get a much better idea of what he can do against a team that has some dudes on it, some dudes that are going to be playing on Sunday. But as far as week 1, you play who's in front of you. I thought all 3 of those guys looked pretty good, but I would say I was most impressed with Milroe. I thought he did what he was advertised to do. He's going to add an extra dynamic to that Alabama offense that we haven't seen in years with his ability to run the ball.
Let's talk Colorado. How much of that was Colorado really being a good football team, and how much of it was TCU taking a step back?
It was a mix of both. Now, Colorado shocked me. I was laying the 20.5 with TCU, and I looked like an idiot after about a quarter because it was pretty clear this 20.5 was not getting covered. But Colorado's fun, man. They're a fun team to watch. I didn't think they were going to be this good this quick, but they got some dudes, and obviously they have the Deion effect. People are going to watch Deion Sanders. He's a polarizing dude. You want to be around your television when Colorado's playing this year. And then now, this could be their biggest one of the season. They could very easily go 3-9 the rest of the way and just really not be a good football team. But it's going to be a fun ride. Whatever they end up doing this year, it's going to be a fun ride. They got some talent, and how can you not love Travis Hunter? He played nearly 130 snaps. That guy, I don't know what he did on the ride back. Deion said they had a hot tub on the plane. I don't know if they can actually do that, but if there's one guy I trust to put a hot tub on a plane, it's Deion Sanders. He must have been chilling on that plane ride back because he needed the rest.
That's interesting that you say they could go 3-9 the rest of the way. I mean, do you think that's something like that is on the horizon? They may just have peaked in week 1, or do you think there's a chance that they could be a solid team in a pretty good Pac-12?
I do think they'll be a solid team. I expect that we're going to see Colorado in a bowl game this year, which is a far cry from what I thought. If you would have told me a week ago that they're going to win 3 games, I would say that's a pretty good season for Colorado. But based on what we saw this past weekend, I would say if they're not making a bowl game, then it should be considered disappointment because they got the talent, they got the coach. The Pac-12 is a tough conference this year, but there are going to be some games that they're going to win that maybe a week ago before we saw them play for the first time, we didn't consider to be winnable games on their schedule.
I did not watch a single snap of Ohio State this week, but I read on Twitter that it was a little bit clunky. Do you have thoughts on Ohio State?
I entered that game with so many questions about their quarterback, Hunt, and somehow I left with even more questions and just feeling uncomfortable with that offense. They looked bad. I mean, Indiana is not a good team in the Big Ten Conference. They are nothing. I mean, Indiana might win 3 games this year. Like, they are not a team that should be holding Ohio State's offense to 23 points. That should have been a stat-boosting game for the quarterbacks. That's where you build your confidence if you were Kyle McCord or Devin Brown. And it just felt like they did not have the typical Ohio State offense that we are accustomed to seeing in the Big Ten. But they had every other box checked, right? Like their wide receivers are good, their running backs are good, their offensive line is good. It's just a quarterback thing. And Kyle McCord, I don't necessarily think he played bad, but he didn't play good. And they didn't really use Devin Brown. I do think they should at least kick the idea around of maybe making that more of a competition the next 2 weeks. But you've got to have that issue figured out by the time you square off against Notre Dame at the end of the month here. So I'm not panicking if I'm Ohio State, but I did not like what I saw. I am a little worried.
Drew Allar for Penn State throws for 325 and 3 scores against West Virginia. Is the door cracked for Penn State if Ohio State's not quite what we thought they might be?
Oh, the door's not cracked. The door's open.
Okay.
That door is open. If they can't figure out Ohio State, their quarterback situation, Penn State got theirs. Penn State got theirs. They got a good defense, too. I mean, some of the throws that Drew Allar made this weekend against WVU, it was fun to watch because we haven't seen Penn State have a guy that can kind of move the pocket the way he can, keep his eyes down the field, and just sling the football. I'm excited about the Nittany Lions. And if this Ohio State thing kind of persists for a couple weeks here, watch out because the Nittany Lions are coming.
Chatting with Denton Day, host of College Football Overtime, Saturday nights, 11 to 1 Central Time and 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. All right, let's move to what's a more interesting week to me in week 2, not in Baton Rouge, but around the country. And let's start with Alabama and Texas. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I'm a degenerate, so I'm very plugged into some of the gambling lines. And Alabama's nearly a touchdown favorite. I don't know if that's a fair line. I think Texas is a good team this year, right? And they played Rice, and Rice isn't great. But, again, it's week 1. I think Texas last year would have beaten Alabama if Quinn Ewers stayed healthy. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do this season against Alabama. This time it'll be on the road, of course, in Tuscaloosa. But I want to see what Texas can do. I think there's a real strong chance that they might be able to steal one from Alabama.
What do you think Alabama's offensive identity is going to be? And we can't know much from what we saw last weekend, but we will this weekend. Is it just going to be try to keep it on the ground and play it safe?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're going to make you beat them in the trenches. And we know with Nick Saban, there are not a lot of teams that are going to be able to beat him in the trenches. He does such a wonderful job recruiting and the culture that they built there. They're going to be a run-first team. I don't think that's a bad thing. We've been so accustomed to seeing them throw the ball around the yard with Jalen and certainly with Tua and then with Mac Jones. I think this is going to be kind of what we saw prior to those eras of Alabama football, but they got a lot of talent on that offense, so it's certainly not going to be easy for Texas. They're going to have to man up in the trenches, but yeah, Alabama's going to be a run-first team, especially this week. Maybe as the season progresses, they can open the offense up a little bit, but in week 2 against Texas, you're going to run the ball, you're going to attempt to run it down their throat, and you're going to live with that decision.
Texas A&M is headed to South Beach to play the Hurricanes. I'm looking at that number. It's 4 right now. The Aggies favored by 4 going down there. A pair of teams that were 5-7 last year. Both played well against inferior opponents in their opener. How do you see that one?
I see that Jimbo Fisher should have hired an offensive coordinator to call plays like 3 years ago.
Yep.
This looks like a completely different team this past weekend than it did last year. So I think Texas A&M, I mean, if they're getting 4, I would lay that number. I think they're going to have another strong performance. I love the rest all from them. They were one of maybe not the biggest surprises, because certainly Colorado occupies that top slot for the biggest surprise this weekend, but they were a pleasant surprise just to see the way that their offense operated with Connor Wegman and now with Bobby Petrino calling plays.
Denton, we appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day. We'll talk next week.
Yep, appreciate it, Thanks as always.
He is Denton Day, college football overtime on Sirius XM every night, late night. I know the shift. I was on it last night. We got off the air at 11:36, I believe. Yeah, and Denton. That's when Denton rocks and rolls. He's on from 11 to 1 a.m. every single Saturday, so we appreciate him for giving a look. That's the example I just gave. Like, I did not watch Ohio State play this week. There's a lot going on. I'm trying to watch the SEC teams because I know that's what I'm going to be talking about more often than not. He did, and he watched it. He's paying attention. He said they look terrible. I had no idea. I didn't watch them. I just looked at the score and, well, that's not a lot of points for Ohio State to score on Indiana, and that's the case. It didn't sound like it looked very good. And so all of a sudden, is Penn State a threat in that league? I think they are. I liked what I saw in very, very brief stint of Drew Allard last year. He's just a super talent there at Penn State, and he just hadn't been able to kick the door quite down yet. As Jimmy said on his show yesterday, on the pregame show yesterday, like, if not now, when? And we'll see if this is the case. Penn State, I think, got a pretty good club this year. We'll come back. Take a time out. We'll come back. We'll hear from Jaden Daniels, and then we'll play some Take It or Leave It and get on down the road here on this Labor Day edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. All summer long, we have been telling you about Corey Barr. Corey is a chef, grown national acclaim on Food Network, comes back home and betters his hometown of Monroe. He operates his 3 businesses right there in Fun Row in the 318. He is a champion of Louisiana. Louisiana just means a lot to him. Surely you know someone, a business, nonprofit, or a person like Corey Barr that does great work in our great state. LWCC wants to highlight them. They want to make them part of their Champions of Louisiana program. They allow us to do the talking as well. So if you know someone, go to lwcc.com/champions. You can look at all the champions that we've talked about for a year and a half, and you can nominate a champion of Louisiana. Corey Barr is a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Want more customers? Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers. Visit us online at runningboardsmarketing.com so we can drive your message to where the people are.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the
Tuesday edition of Live at Lunch from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in Mid-City. We'll start early at 10 a.m. to accommodate the Brian Kelly press conference. You probably want to listen. Live at Lunch, 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We'll get to take it or leave it as we do to finish every show here soon, but I did want to play a couple more sound bites from the post-game press conferences last night. Brian Kelly pretty pointed in some pretty strong language about his team after the loss.
Yeah, congratulations to Florida State. They played a great second half. They were the better football team tonight, and we certainly are not the football team that I thought we were, and got to do a much better job, obviously, and developing our football team. We clearly were short in a lot of areas tonight, and that falls on me to get our football team to be better in most of the competitive areas that you saw tonight. Execution in the first half, the inability to convert in the red zone. Second half, didn't play with a sense of urgency. All of those fall on coaching and getting our players to recognize that and make those kinds of choices in practice.
The front of that bite is the most interesting part. It's like, we're not the football team I thought we were. Like, that's a pointed statement to make, and usually not one you hear coaches say. They usually say, we just didn't execute the way we want to. It's a long season ahead of us. We certainly got to correct some things, get some things cleaned up, and I'm confident that our guys will go to work and we'll get it done. But like, we're not what I thought we were. That's a lot. And so there was a follow-up then asked to Jaden Daniels, like, hey, what do you think about your coach saying, hey, y'all are not the team that you thought you were?
We got a long season ahead, and I agree with him. We're not the team that we thought we were. We thought we were somebody else that we weren't. I feel like just as a whole team, we got ahead of ourselves. We thought we were going to come out, it was going to be easy. We got to step back and look ourselves in the mirror, how we're going to respond to this at the end of the day. We got a short week coming up. We don't have too much time to sit back and really just think about the loss. We got to get ready for Grambling.
And hopefully the team takes, I know that sound audio quality wasn't perfect, but he said, we agree with him. We're not the team that we thought we were. And hopefully they all take that in stride and get to work and keep their heads up and make some improvements like they did last year after a really tough loss. But this one feels a lot different because there were no expectations entering last season, and there certainly were really high expectations on this season. And it just feels like in this sport, when it goes that bad that early, it's a lot. It's hard to respond to. Brian Kelly was pretty pointed in that, and Jaden Daniels said that he agreed. We'll see how the guys respond this week, and they'll get the taste out of their mouth a little bit with Grambling, and then you go on the road in conference play and see exactly what you can do. But I thought those were interesting comments from Brian Kelly and Jaden Daniels kind of echoing there. So let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one here. Jets cornerback DJ Reed said the team's defense could be historical this year. Take it or leave it.
I'll probably leave it. Like, I don't think that the 2023 Jets are going to be mentioned in the same breath as the 85 Bears or the Purple People Eaters, the great Ravens defense. That seems doubtful to me. Sure, I guess it could happen. But I think America is really getting a big kick out of the Jets. They're on Hard Knocks. You got Aaron Rodgers and that whole story, and they're in that huge media market. And like, most teams get kind of a public bump from Hard Knocks. Last year, I felt like a lot of people were in on the Lions because of the Hard Knocks season, and it feels like the Jets have a lot of that right now. We'll see what happens with them. I think they're going to be a lot better because they got a real quarterback now. But as far as the defense goes, I doubt they're going to be historic.
It's funny you mentioned the 85 Bears because he says, I think we can be a historical defense like the 85, 86 Bears and the Seahawks Legion of Boom in 2013.
Easy now. I can't quite. I know that the Seahawks did win a Super Bowl, and that's great. But, like, I'm not going to put the Seahawks in the 85 Bears discussion at this point. That was a nice defense, but I'm not going to put them. I'm not even going to put them with that Ravens team that the one with Trent Dilfer. Those were real defenses. The Seahawks were good.
All right, moving on. Alabama's starting defensive backs Malachi Moore and Jalen Key are questionable for the Texas game this Saturday. Longhorns have a great chance to take down Saban and company in Alabama. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I think they have a chance. I'm not to a point where I'm going to pick them just yet. We'll see how the week goes and how Friday goes. But I do think that Alabama's a little vulnerable. I'm not going to pull back on that because they beat the heck out of Middle Tennessee State. I still think Jalen Milroe's got his issues. I just think he's limited in what he can do in the passing game, and I think that Quinn Ewers is pretty good. If it was in Austin, I might feel a little differently than I do if it's in Tuscaloosa. Yeah. But I'm not quite to that point yet. We'll see how the week goes.
All right, last one here. There will be 3 Americans in the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open. One of them will play in the final. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. No confidence in American tennis whatsoever. I as a youngster, really loved watching Pete Sampras play like that. He was my favorite player. I used to love watching him at Wimbledon in the summers. And I used to really pull for Andy Roddick closer to my college years. But since then, America's just done nothing. And my tennis interest has waned because Americans have not been prevalent. And I feel like I just missed that golden era. I just didn't watch a lot of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and all that because for some reason I just prefer to watch the Americans play. I create a rooting interest. I should have just jumped on board with Federer or Nadal or Djokovic and pulled for them, but I didn't do that. And I remember distinctly, I covered the LSU tennis team when I worked for the Rebel, and I went out and watched them one time, and they had 6 courts out at the Dub, and LSU had 6 matches going on, and all 6 players were from a different country, and none of them was from America. Which is perfectly fine. It's just that's the state of American tennis.
Yeah.
It's just not any good. And looks like Alcaraz is kind of the next guy up. I think he's going to win this one, and then somebody's going to have to chase him down. I just don't have any confidence in American tennis. That's just the way I feel about that. Yeah. I got a kick out of the Walker Cup. Did you watch any of the Walker Cup this weekend?
I did, and I saw that the U.S. did have to come from behind. Yeah. They were losing there.
Dominated in singles at St. Andrews. But it was funny because Stuart Hagestad is on the team, and he's a financial analyst, like he works in stocks, and he's just an excellent amateur golfer. He plays in the USAM. He's won the USAM. He qualifies for the U.S. Open a good bit, but he never wanted to go be a professional golfer. He's just got a regular J job. He's just a great player, and he's on the Walker Cup team. He's 32 years old, and most of these guys are college players. And Great Britain and Ireland, who's on the other team, they had a 16-year-old on their team, and he played him in match play. So he was literally twice his age. He was 32 to 16, and Hagestad, the 32-year-old, won the match. But those guys, Walker Cup was at St. Andrews this year, and in 2 years at Cypress Point, which is sick.
That's crazy.
I don't think I'll be qualifying for the Walker Cup team. I'm eligible. I'm an amateur
You're
golfer.
eligible.
I could. I just don't think they're going to pick me. I think that me toting around unless they let me play with strokes, which
in that case,
give me my 8 shots on some of these guys. Maybe we'll see, but I don't think I'll be qualified. I don't know who the next captain is, but I don't think he's going to pick me. That'll do it for a Monday edition of Take It or Leave It. Look, first hour was all LSU and Florida State. If you're interested in my thoughts on that, you can find them. They were at the first hour of the show, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. In short, if you want the Cliff Notes version, I'm petrified about LSU's ability to cover this year. I was scared about it going in, and last night was really eye-opening. And no matter what the situation, first down, third down, fourth down, first quarter, fourth quarter, red zone, LSU just could not cover at any point. And I'm very much concerned about that moving forward. I went through LSU's draft picks in the secondary, went through some situations in the game, and it was terrifying. If you want my full thoughts, you can catch that on demand, all those spots I told you, or at our YouTube page, which is Hunt on LSU. If you just want LSU football content, you can go to Hunt on LSU on YouTube. Subscribe to it, and all my LSU football segments will be right there on your homepage when you log on to YouTube. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. We did have Matthew Bruni in our number one. He is from the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 network. He was in Orlando last night and was back in action today, able to join us at 1:30. I gave my thoughts on the Southeastern Conference in our number two. Impressed with a couple teams, not so impressed with a few others. Gave my thoughts on the SC East and the SC West, and gave my gambling record, which we had a winning week. And then we had Denton Day, a guy from Sirius XM Radio College Football Overtime. He was with us, as he is every Monday, at 2:30 before Take It or Leave It. So catch all of that on demand if you missed any of it. Tomorrow, a little bit of a different schedule. It's a weird week with the Labor Day holiday today. So Brian Kelly's press conference will air tomorrow, coming up at about noon. So Live at Lunch is going to go early. They're going to start at 10 a.m. So you'll have OTB from 7 to 10. Then Live at Lunch will come on from 10 through the Brian Kelly Show, and they'll hand off to me. Me and Matt will be at our normal times, 1 to 3 for me, 3 to 6 for Matt. Speaking of Matt, he's going to come on. He and T-Bob gave their thoughts on whiskey and wine, but he's about to, I would say drive you home, but you're probably not going home from work today. It's just us working today. Hope you have a great rest of your Labor Day, and we will see you tomorrow. We'll talk a little Saints tomorrow. They haven't lost yet. That'll be refreshing. We'll see y'all tomorrow on the Hunt Palmer Show.